Last time I made a list of 10 bands that never changed their sound, and it worked! They kept their core style for many years in albums, and most listeners loved every second. And now we need to look at the groups that kept their sound for years and it got old, got watered down, or flat out stagnated. This video is the bad list of 10 bands that never changed their sound. I am fully aware this video is going to upset some people, so if you are already upset just by looking at the thumbnail of the video, go ahead and leave a foul, vicious comment below. The longer the better, and make sure to @rocked also while you're at it. I promise it'll get read. This is not a top 10, no ranking, just a list. Just like on the good list, I'm only counting bands that have at least 5 albums out. Not much need for change if you only have an album or 2. I'm also aware there are way more than 10, so leave a comment with a band you know that has never changed their sound and that they really should have. You know how these videos work, let's get to it. I was never into Hollywood Undead, even when they broke out big on radio, but I knew they had a big following. The songs Undead and Everywhere I Go define them as a tough guy rap rock group. They were young, in your face, and there were many of them. 8 albums into their career, and not only has the band's sound not changed, but they're also refusing to admit that they're getting older. It started out as a group of young guys trying to get big with rap rock and basic riffs and less than mediocre rapping. It worked with the image though. Years went on, the same edgy tough guy fronting never stopped, even when the mask came off. The music never evolved, it was just more posing on stage and in studio to prove how much of a threat everyone was. Hollywood Undead has band members in their early 40s now, and the music that diehard fans say is very personal to them. It's chock full of lyrics about how you don't mess with tough guys like Hollywood Undead. Even in the most recent Hotel California, with a K, nothing has changed. If anything, the music and everything else with the lyrics has just gotten weaker. I feel like with that much stage presence that the group brings and depends on, they could have done more to expand with that, instead of just continuing to tell people how no one should mess with them. In 20 years, the band might at least get off our lawn, you kids, but still trying to sound tough in their 60s. When I made that line at the beginning about angry comments, I'm aware that Seether fans are going to be furious when the band being on this list. The name kept coming up in suggestions from people, and honestly, looking back to their debut in 2022 with Disclaimer, I have to say the more you look through the discography, the more you realize Seether don't know how to adapt or change. I say I don't know how because Sean Morgan and company have said in interviews while promoting the new albums they're on is that they would be trying new things and breaking away from standard writing formats, and every time the format stays the same, and the songwriting and material is beat for beat. Even in recent years when adding a second guitarist and extending album runtimes to try and include more variety, the mainstream rock radio format is still followed to the letter, and every song is bitter angst and trying to sound angry, but never doing anything about it. Guitar work never gets enough time to shine, the music drones on, and I truly feel Seether don't know how to make something different or step out of their comfort zone, even when they say they want to. 20 years after their big debut, which really impressed people, and the group has been coasting on the same speed, groaning post-grunge style ever since. It's a shame because I think they could do more. It's rare when a long-running band has a singer change, and not only does the group sound roughly the same music-wise, but the writing gets more repetitive, and the possibility of anything sounding different just goes out the window. While I was a fan of the Adam era of 3 Days Grace, I have to say, looking back at the full discography, not much has changed from the group when you look at the big picture. The reason why 3 Days Grace wasn't put on the good list is because after Adam left, the band had been treading water and making music for Billboard charts and local FM rock stations. That's it. No real focus or extra thought, just churn out the next track, rinse, repeat, and go to #1 on the charts. I get it, don't argue with success, but after Adam left, the songwriting had the same running themes but with weaker writing and everyone got older and it's just hard to get through. 3 Days Grace has become a shell of themselves and rely on old hits while just writing new songs that are repeated themes and just to pay the new bills. I do feel there was an edge in the beginning. There is such little passion in the music now though, including the most recent explosions, which more than proves the point of the group just rehashing what they've always done. Knowing longtime fans and radio station executives will come clamoring for it. Going back in time in the year 2000, you could not ask for more than the success Three Doors Down had with A Better Life. Right out of the gate and going platinum, setting chart records, and becoming a household name. Over 20 years later, and the group is gearing to go out on another run. And what's wild is they never really evolved past the sound and era of songs like Kryptonite and Loser. Don't get me wrong, I do not hate Three Doors Down. They aren't worth hating. They are almost completely inoffensive. You have to try in order to get upset at music like this. It had a place in the early 2000s also, and as the years went on, and with the following albums, you realize that that was the only one sound they wanted to pull off. Or could pull off. Even their highly promoted comeback album, Us in the Night in 2016, with the single Do It in the Dark, it's corny dad rock. That's not awful, but that also perfectly describes Three Doors Down in a lot of their music, even some of the bigger hits applying that label retroactively. Think of Kryptonite. It's kind of corny dad rock. The group sold over 13 million albums in the United States alone. This is a great example of a band breaking out at a young age and then coasting, and when you sell that much though, it's easy to get comfortable. And I saw Three Doors Down perform in 2016 on that comeback tour. I think they were coasting live as well. Let's get a little bit spiritual now. I have nothing against Red, and this is another band it's truly hard to be offended by. I mean, come on, it's a truly Christian hard rock band that was able to break into mainstream from time to time. That's a miracle in itself. That focus on Christian hard rock for some talented members, however, does feel a bit repetitive as church hymns after a while. I must say, for Barnes, the Armstrong brothers, and the many alternating and touring drummers who are all quite talented, so much of Red's music is identical to each other. Going back to the End of Silence in 2006 and all the way to Declaration in 2020, there is a Red Sea that never parted. It's just one big similar body, and it all stayed consistent to a fault. Christian rock sometimes relies on that, however, and it's worked for the group. I mean, Red was nominated for a Grammy at one point. Most mainstream rock groups can't say that. Red performed on Conan back in the day. Most Christian bands can't say that. That status quo made a career for themselves. Maybe it's hard to change your sound though when you are already broken through on rock radio and you want to keep elements of your faith in your music without being overly preachy. If Red were to change, people would call it blasphemy. They'd be a Judas to rock and to Christians. Am I getting all these puns in that are religious? I'm trying my best here. I know I'm getting hate comments for this one also, but everyone, Breaking Benjamin was the #1 name that kept constantly coming up on suggestions when I asked the question on the YouTube community page. When you have Ben Burnley pouring his heart out album after album, it's gonna sound similar in some ways, especially for radio singles, and even when that entire lineup behind Burnley changes. I mean, it's Breaking Benjamin. This is his show. All that said, I don't and have never hated Breaking Benjamin. I do see why many people see this as a bad example though, as so many of the mainstream rock hits and even album deep cuts have a format and definitely have that Breaking Benjamin oversaying dramatic flair that made the name big. When the music is really driven by a creative mind who goes for those big chorus hooks and sings about disappointment and frustration and failure and then screaming about it all, you will get repetition over the years. I think Breaking Benjamin have more talent than the same Billboard radio rock formats they've shown. Breaking Benjamin will continue to make hits and radio rock loves them, so the chances of a format change are slim. That's not to say they won't though. Even a collaboration could do a lot, just like the recent one with Starset, which was nice. I just think that Ben Burnley has more to offer than screaming failure. Nothing wrong with that song too, I'm just saying the idea in general. I refer back to my graph that 80% of all metalcore is similar sounding and generic to the subgenre. While there are many examples of bands like Memphis May Fire, I feel Memphis May Fire are a terrific example of a band who are the metalcore mold of what to do and how to sound, without ever going outside the box either. Once you've heard one song from Memphis May Fire, you've heard them all. I don't think Memphis May Fire are awful or unlistenable, but every time I hear new music from the group, I keep thinking something might be different, and it never is. I saw the band live thinking that would warm me up to the group, and even the songs I didn't know all sounded like the songs that I had already heard. It's just a flood of endless metalcore that's very tepid and bland. The lyric writing is a big part of the inspiration and creation for Memphis May Fire and Matty Mullins, and I get that's why they have such a strong fan base. Man, oh man, the song structure, the guitar riffs, the blast, the cleans to uncleans, it's as all stock as it could be for a metalcore template. 7 albums in, and the band is a staple of metalcore, but with so many other metalcore bands finally branching out a bit and stepping out of their comfort zone occasionally, Why can't Memphis May Fire? I feel they have something more to offer than chugga chugga metalcore. Then again, most metalcore fans only want chugga chugga, so what do I know? If you've been listening even occasionally to Godsmack over the past 25 years, you know that this group is the epitome of antisocial music. Godsmack, with members now in their 50s, are still playing hard rock anthems about telling off everyone they hate, not trusting anyone, and screaming at the world to stay away. No wonder teens in the early 2000s liked this band so much. I look back at that self-titled album and the big songs that made the group famous, and then I look back at the following albums like Awake and Faceless and how so much of the music are carbon copies. Then I look at the 2018 release When Legends Rise and how awful and outdated many songs are, and I realize Godsmack doesn't change because they don't want to. Keep in mind, Godsmack's live performances over the years have also been more and more phoned in to the point where it's just a spotlight on Sully Erna. The mainstream format is a crutch. The guitar work lost its luster years ago, and the lyrics got more and more pathetic. I'm betrayed, I can't trust anyone. Everyone is awful, stay away from me, I'm angry about it. Godsmack said the end is coming soon with their 2023 release potentially being their final album. Will they shock us with something memorable, or will they just be yelling at us to stay away? Keep away. Go away. You know the answer. I'm including Five Finger Death Punch on this list because not only was it one of the most suggested names to put on the bad list when I asked for suggestions, but I truly feel after a certain point that all the potential this group had, regardless of who it was at the time, went completely wasted due to having to support bro metal anthems, all by a man who was trying to convince everyone how difficult it is to be him. As of the release of this video with Five Finger's album Afterlife being dropped this year, it became more and more apparent that the music is built around the wild, angry mood swings of Ivan Moody, shifting from I want to hurt everyone to why does everyone hate me? Very conflicted man. Even when Five Finger is doing endless cover songs in a bro metal ballad type, it all sounds the exact same. While the knuckleheads are diehard for this band and people praise the group for how they support the troops, it all feels very insincere and the music seems to be endless pandering to an audience. Go back to the late 2000s with early Five Finger Death Punch and realize everything just followed suit after a while and became phoned in album after album to be qualified into two categories. Woe is me, and everyone is awful, but I'm still normal somehow. With members now changing out and Ivan Moody announcing and canceling his retirements, I don't know what that's about, it begs the question, how much longer will the knuckleheads deal with this bro metal Kyle status quo? The trope of everyone hating Nickelback has gone full circle several times with people acknowledging the hate, giving them another chance, Chad Kroeger saying something stupid, the hate coming back. I was a Nickelback fan back at a young age in the late 90s, but when Chad found his formula, Nickelback knew to never move past that. The formula became the music. No thought or passion needed. It was when Silver Side Up came out and How You Remind Me was blasted everywhere that Chad talked about how he found the formula mimicking writing structure based on other songs. He stuck with that sense, and you can place many Nickelback songs to it. The lack of variety, the same riffs, tempos, lyric writing at times, it's all just copy-paste to that mainstream formula. It worked perfectly, and Nickelback are one of the most successful rock bands ever. But it also begs the question how much more they could have created if they were still trying to make something with more meaning than fast cars, drinking, and women. For decades in a row. Are Nickelback the band overhated? Yes. Everyone behind Chad you never hear bad things about. Is the music overhated? I don't know, because so much of the music is a carbon copy of a carbon copy from 2002 that Nickelback is just cashing checks on, all the way to San Quentin. A band that couldn't have done so much more. But why do that when you're already big rock stars? Just like the last video, keep in mind that there are people who love these bands because they haven't changed. For every music lover who loves change and evolution, there's another that loves consistency and repetition. Not to say that one is better than the other, but I do think some bands are better at consistency than others. That was a look at 10 bands who never changed their sound and really should have. Know of another group that fits this definition on the bad list? Leave a comment and let everyone know. Big thanks to my patrons and special thanks to Chris Doman, Dom Noble, and Frosty Rabbit. You can have a say in upcoming videos, get weekly new music playlists, and see videos early by supporting Rocked on Patreon. Click the link in the video description for more info on how you can support the channel. Please subscribe and ring the bell to get notified on upcoming videos, and you can keep up to date with Rocked on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I do feel mainstream rock radio has been the biggest factor in these bands never changing because radio keeps playing the same bands and same style in rock because it suits them, not the music. Rock revival won't happen until new styles in music get promoted online, XM, FM, whatever it is.